makes their own decisions and everybody makes their own choices, but they're not the only ones that suffer the consequences.
Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. We're here today to discuss Chapter 6, No Agreement, of Jill's recent book, Counting the Cost. In the beginning of this chapter, Jill and Derek, they're returning home from their mission in El Salvador, and Jill states that she feels pretty good about what they've accomplished there. They feel like they're leaving the missionary post in a good place. And they also feel good that they were able to stand up to Jim Bob and the TLC network who wanted them to come back to the United States for some filming and promotional work. They were able to say no and stay at the missionary like they had always planned to do. So they're feeling pretty good about themselves, and they're coming home in order to decide like their next step, hopefully going forward with missionary work. And Jill's excited because they're coming home to many happy events. Like, for example, her sister Ginger is getting married to the world famous Jeremy Bolo. So there's a lot of good things going on, and it was fun to come home. I totally get this, and just be able to go to a regular grocery store and, you know, set foot back in the United States. A few months after arriving home, they finally get a copy of the contract, which Jill has signed unknowingly with TLC. She receives the copy from Chad, and she and Derek, she says that they're pretty much infuriated by the whole thing because she definitely feels like she had no idea what she was signing. But Jill describes feeling welcomed back by her family. She thought that they're going to be very angry with her about staying in El Salvador, and she says, no, I felt welcomed back at the big house. We're having meals together, we're going places together, and everything just feels like it used to be. It feels good overall. And it was shortly after arriving home that Jill found out she was pregnant for a second time. She was very happy about this. She thought that she could just go ahead and go back to El Salvador and continue missionary work during the pregnancy. However, there was an outbreak of the Zika virus in Central and South America, and it was not safe for pregnant women to go down to that area any longer. It was not safe for her, so she was going to need to stay in Arkansas to deliver. Overall, it seems like Jill's life is going along pretty well. She's pregnant. She has her oldest son, Israel. They're living near the Duggar house, and everybody seems to be getting along okay. And then all of the sudden, out of nowhere, they get a text from Jim Bob saying, family meeting, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. She should have known by now, like, this was going to be a big deal because this is what's happened before with all of the big family meetings. They start by talking a little bit about Josh, and Jim Bob just says he's had a few more struggles. But he recently got his car lot going, and we feel like it's good for him to just be out on his own now and make his own way. Now, you and I know that Jim Bob is contributing heavily to this car lot, and the finances of the Duggars are often wrapped up in schemes that Josh is pulling off. He's helping with businesses behind the scenes. He's making money and taking some in for himself. So Jim Bob doesn't always seem to present things accurately to his children. But anyway, Jim Bob says that he's called this meeting because he wants to talk to people about actually going ahead and giving some money to each of the older children. And he says, we want to give you each $80,000, and I'm guessing some of you will use it to start businesses, buy houses, or whatever. And everybody bursts out into like sounds of gratitude, saying like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And he turns to Derek and Jill and says, you guys know you have Derek to thank for this. Now, Jill here seems to say like, this made me feel really kind of uncomfortable, actually. I feel like it may have been a dig towards Derek and I. But either way, everybody was excited and happy and thinking this was a great situation for them. But then Jim Bob goes on to state, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the $80,000. I'm going to need all of you to sign this contract as I hand out these checks. Just sign on the line. Oh, Derek's a little bit too smart for this. And as soon as he and Jill are alone, he says, you know, what's going on here? And Jill says, she's like, why 80,000? Why that specific number? Why like signing the contracts? What could be going on here? They spoke about it extensively that night, but just ended up feeling frustrated because they don't have any answers. A few weeks later, a 4-page agreement was emailed over to all of the kids, including Jill, and Derek studied it carefully. And this is what the agreement essentially said. Derek says that it wasn't a contract with TLC or any other network. It was only a contract with Mad Family Incorporated, which is Jim Bob's company that he's been funneling the money through all this time. In return for the $80,000 for the next 7 years, plus an unlimited number of years beyond that, you have to commit to making yourselves and your children and any children yet to be born available to the show that Mad Family Inc. created or participated in. To any show, wow, that Mad Family Inc. created or participated in. We would be paid for that work as well, but at a rate that we would have to accept without negotiation. And then we would also have to sign an NDA for the rest of our lives. All right, so Jill and Derek's response is like $80,000 is a lot of money, but this comes with strings attached to it that we're just not willing to live by. And she says she and Derek didn't even need to discuss it. This was not what was right for them. And they know they've already kind of been screwed over. They recognize that there have been bad contracts with Jim Bob in the past, so they don't really trust what's going on here. She also makes it clear to us that Jim Bob made it clear to her and everyone else in that family that they were not to discuss these contracts among each other, that they were not to stir up contention among the brethren. He specifically says, you will come to me. Like, come to me if you have a problem with this contract. Do not speak with each other. And I think a lot of us are already aware that we don't know what happened here, but Jeremy and Ginger, specifically Jeremy, he did not get involved with this. He made his own contract. So it's interesting. I guess they didn't speak with each other about it, but Jeremy went off on his own. He didn't do the contract that, Jim Bob Duggar wants. He came up with a different one. And I think his contract is directly with TLC, not with Mad Family Inc. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. I'll double check on it for you before next time. And Jill and Derek, they did try to talk to Jim Bob about the contract, and they asked him specifically, like, okay, maybe we would be willing to sign, but the first thing we want to do is we want to see the contract that Jill signed before. The one that she signed at her wedding that Chad stated, binds her to the show. We've seen pieces of it, but we've never seen the whole contract, and we want to see it. And basically, Jim Bob refused. He refuses until pretty much the end of this book to show them that contract. So, clearly, there's something else going on here. And Derek and Jill are smart enough to get that, and they don't want to fall into the hole of just accepting what Jim Bob is saying and going forward with another contract with him, which is totally reasonable. It's not even that this contract is unfair, it's that he won't be honest with them about the contract that they signed before. So of course they're going to be hesitant to get involved with him further. Jim Bob and Derek end up having a conversation with each other, and Jill is there. She writes about it here in the book, where both of them say, we've lost trust towards each other. Derek says there's some trust issues, and Jim Bob says, I feel the same way towards you. And this is around Thanksgiving, so Jill makes a point of telling us that when she thinks about what she's most thankful for in her life, she does say, I'm thankful for my mom and dad, but I'm most thankful for my husband Derek, who was brave enough to stand up to my father and stand up for our family over the past year when many things have been very hard for us. So we get kind of a sneak peek as to how Jill has really moved out from underneath the control of her dad, and she looks to Derek now as being her person, like the person she is building a life with. And she cannot put her dad's needs first, which shouldn't have been happening in the first place. But at least we're seeing that movement away from being so controlled by Jim Bob. In the end of this part of the chapter, what happens is that Jim Bob comes to visit Derek and Jill and says, you know what, we've decided, I guess for Christmas, Mom and I just want to go ahead and give you the money, the $80,000. We're just going to go ahead and give it to you. We had hoped to just revise things in the contract and have you sign it. But either way, we have decided that we just want to go ahead and give y'all your payment now. We really love you guys. We really love you guys. And Jill says, thank you, Pops, I said. I meant it, but I wasn't rejoicing because somehow I didn't feel like this was the end of the story. Okay, this is a super short one, guys. I will have to film more later tonight. because I've got a bunch of chores to run around and do today. I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again soon when we head down our next rabbit hole.